Dear students, Dipesh Bhagat here, Department of English, Maryland College, Biratnagar, Nepal. I welcome you all to my YouTube channel, and today I have brought a poem entitled Grandmother, which is composed by an American Indian poet. I repeat, American Indian poet named Ray Young Beer, and this poem is prescribed in the syllabus of English in grade 12. So let's see, this might be helpful to you. And as I said, American Indian poet. So who is American Indian? Who is American Indian? Yes, that's the question. Is it Indian? Is it American? So, American Indians are the aborigines, or you can say the indigenous people of America, the Native Americans. They are Native Americans. You know, when Christopher Columbus discovered America, he saw the red-skinned people over there. When he landed in the soil of America, he found the red-skinned people there. Those red-skinned people were the Native Americans, the native people of America, indigenous people of America. But he thought he discovered India. It was his mistake. It was his wrong belief that he thought he had discovered India. But later he realized it was not India, rather it was America. And therefore, we can call that red Indians, they are Native Americans. We can say these red Indians, these Native Americans are known as American Indians. So, the poet Ray Young Beer, he belongs to a Mesquaki tribe. Mesquaki tribe. That means Mesquaki tribe, a group of people having their typical lifestyle, culture, traditions, customs, beliefs, and these people, they are the genuine residents, the genuine settlers of America. Now, let's talk about the title. The title itself says, it gives us indication that the poem is about grandmother. It is written, it is composed in the memory of grandmother. The poet wants to immortalize, the poet wants to make his grandmother immortal, because he believes whatever he is today, all his success, achievement, personality, all these things are simply the gifts of his grandmother, because his grandmother had always been the guide, the instructor, the friend, companion, and the source of inspiration. He presents the picture of his grandmother. He draws a beautiful image of his grandmother, which has ever been imprinted in his mind. Since the poem is about the pleasant, sweet, beautiful memories of the past, the time the poet had spent during his childhood with his grandmother, therefore this poem is a nostalgic poem. Nostalgic means simply expressing memories of, expressing the beautiful memories of the past. The beautiful memories you have spent somewhere with someone. If you remember, if you recall those memories, those beautiful memories, sweet memories, it is nostalgic. And simply the poem is a nostalgic one. It is nostalgic one in the sense that it is expression of the beautiful moment that the poet had spent during his childhood with his grandmother. Part 4. The poet expresses his respect and affection for his grandmother, and the deep emotional attachment with his grandmother can be felt, can be realized in each and every word throughout the stanzas of the poem. And therefore, we can say this is a depiction of the relationship between grandmother and the grandson, the grandchild. In the opening lines, the poet clearly says, "If I were to see her shape from a mile away, I would so quickly know that it would be her, the purple scarf and the plastic shopping bag." It means, the poet says, he was able to recognize, he was able to identify, he could easily identify his grandmother from miles away, means from a long distance, just by seeing the shape of her body, the style, the way of her movement, the way she used to walk. All these things, her activities, the movement, these things were enough for him to recognize her. And she would be carrying a plastic shopping bag in her hand while going for shopping to the market and she would also put on a purple scarf round her neck. A scarf, a knitted garment for covering the neck, especially during the winter season. So the poet could easily identify, and these things, the plastic shopping bag, the purple scarf, and the shape of the body shape of grandmother, all these things simply evoke, they activate, they stimulate our sense of vision, our sense of sight. Means the eyes of the poet, they were so familiar with grandmother that they could easily identify her. Similarly, the poet says he could easily feel the presence of his grandmother whenever she touched on his head with her warm and damp hands with smell of roots. It means whenever she came from her work, from field, from farm, from agricultural land, from wherever else, whenever she came from the work, she would give him a gentle, emotional, a loving and caring touch, and this would easily make him feel that his grandmother was present over there, and her hands would produce the smell of roots. Smell of roots here indicates that grandmother probably works in a farm. She probably worked in a farm, and while working in the farm with the plants, after coming from the field, the hands would still produce the smell of roots, means the smell of plants. For example, when you touch the coriander leaves, when you are working with the leaves of garlic, even if you wash your hands, they will still give you the smell of those plants. Further, he says, if I heard a voice coming from a rock, I would know her words would flow inside me like the light of someone stirring ashes from sleeping fire at night. Means whenever he goes to the grave, here rock means graveyard, it's a tombstone, means grandmother is no more in the world. Physically she is no more in the world, but her words even from the graveyard, even from the tombstone of grandmother, echo in his ears, and they still guide him, they still show him the right path, they still enlighten him, they still re-energize him. The indication here is that although the poet's grandmother is no more in the world physically, she is already in the grave in her tomb. Wherever the poet feels confused, in dilemma, he is not able to take decisions in his life, he goes, stands in front of the grave of grandmother, and her words of inspiration, the instructions, the supervision, the guidance, he finds them all enlightening him. He feels himself enlightened, and the decisions are easily made in his life. Thus, we can see the poem is very rich in images. The poet has used a number of images, and all these images, they directly evoke our sense of vision, sense of hearing, sense of touch, and of course the sense of smell. For example, the purple scarf, the plastic shopping bag, the shape of grandmother, and of course the sleeping fire, they are all stimulating our sense of vision, sense of sight. They make our eyes active. We visualize them, these pictures. And similarly, warm and damp hands, this evokes the sense of touch, sense of feeling, the smell of roots indicating, evoking or provoking the sense of smell, and the words coming from rock, of course, evokes, it stimulates our sense of hearing, means almost all the sensory organs, the sensory perceptions are so attached, so familiar with grandmother that all his senses could easily recognize, identify her. The images used in the poem have symbolic meanings, and they simply help us understand the poem deeply. Means we can go to the deeper level of the poem, and we can correlate the images with something else that they refer to, that the poet intends to indicate, to refer. For example, the plastic shopping bag, it simply indicates the economic background of the speaker's grandmother, because plastic shopping bag contains a small quantity of goods, a small quantity of the items, the things, means shopping. When she went for shopping, she carried a small plastic shopping bag, means usually we find the poor people, the economically unsound people, they buy the goods in a small quantity. Similarly, another word, the smell of roots coming from hand, that indicates simply that the poet's grandmother used to work in a farm, in an agricultural land. And the words coming from rock also indicates that grandmother is no more alive, she is physically no more in the world. And to the deeper level, when we go deeply into the poem, we can relate these images with the source of identity. In fact, grandmother itself stands for the previous generation, the ancient, the ancestors, means the poet is in search of his identity. If we take the word grandmother at deeper level, we can easily find it as a symbol. It has rich meanings, deeper meanings, because grandmother itself stands for past, previous generations, ancestors, forefathers, and it also means the traditions, customs, lifestyle of the red skinned, the Native Americans, the indigenous people of America. They feel that their existence, their identity, their originality, their naturalness, they are all in danger of losing their existence because of the influence, because of the external influence. Therefore, in a sense, this poem is a search for identity. The poet is in quest for his identity, his originality, his naturalness, and therefore it is also a kind of awareness to the young generations, to the present generation, that we should not forget, we should not underestimate our originality, our naturalness, because they are our identity. Thank you very much.